Here's another important video from the Personal Defense Network. Say that we get into a situation where we're needing to fight, we're needing to defend ourselves or our family outside of our vehicle, or outside of any vehicle for that matter. We've talked before, when we speak of defensive use of firearms in public, how properly to use a car as cover and which parts of the car actually are cover and which are really glorified concealment. Let's take a look and see, since we're on this range here where we actually can shoot a vehicle safely in a controlled environment, and look at the effects of what happens when we actually shoot through certain parts of the vehicle, or shoot at certain parts of the vehicle, or shoot at a person hiding behind the vehicle. In this case, we're going to use the trunk area first. Now, the trunk area is probably the closest we come to just clean sheet metal on both sides. We don't have to worry too much about rods and connectors like we do in the door. We aren't expecting, obviously, any engine block or other material. Now, if there's a spare tire or if there's things stored in the trunk, sure, it may be more than just sheet metal. In this case, we know that the trunk's empty. I can't even see the person on the other side. Now, while I may have a clear shot at their feet, if that doesn't occur to me, or if I'm now the bad guy shooting at the good guy who's hiding behind the car, and I haven't had training, I'm not aware of the option of shooting at the feet, I'm just going to shoot right through that car trying to hurt the guy. Let's see what happens with this standard .40 caliber firearm. Once we've taken a number of shots, we're going to go down range and actually take a look and see what effect, if any, we had on the target beyond the car. Now, as you saw, we fired a number of shots from the other side of the vehicle, 9 in fact. When we shot, I had no idea what was happening over here on the other side. But if we look closely, we can see that while one bullet came through and maybe was deflected, maybe it's just dropped in there, maybe was cut in half, one bullet came cleanly through, and one bullet almost made it through. The rest of them are trapped somewhere inside the car. So the car actually did a pretty good job, in this case, of defeating these .40 caliber Smith & Wesson rounds. But what about that guy right there? Well, that guy is cleanly embedded in our target, and in fact would have been a combat-accurate hit that would have significantly affected this guy's ability to fight. So when we think about using a car as cover, we want to be careful about these open sheet metal areas. They might stop the bullet, they might not. And that's too big a risk to risk my life or my family's life when I think about using a car as cover. Let's switch it up, move this target down here behind the door, and see how the door fares in terms of stopping rounds that are meant to hurt us. Now we're set up with the target actually behind the two car doors. We've got the driver's side and the passenger side car door between us and that target. Now again, we're not teaching this in terms of shooting into something that we can't see, teaching to shoot through a car and not have any idea what's on the other side. This is really to raise your awareness about different parts of the car and how likely they are to stop typical pistol bullets. Again, we've got a few shots into the door. Let's go over to our target and see if we had any effect. Now, as we come around the car, again, we can see that most of the rounds we fired were stopped by one door or another. One round almost made it through here, and one round clearly cut through the door here and had a significant effect on our target right here. So we've got a good size hole inside of that combat accurate area, would have significantly affected the target. Again, most of the shots were stopped, but not all of them. We can't count on car doors to protect us from incoming fire. We need to be hiding behind these engine blocks and or the actual wheels and tires. The wheels are going to be great at stopping rounds, as are the axle and the brakes and everything else that's associated with the wheel, and of course the engine block. We can be behind the engine block or on this side behind the main front part of the car. The sides, the rear, not so good. It's just sheet metal, some connecting rods. And we've talked about bullet skip also, and we've talked about the importance of not going over cover. Let's take a look very specifically at what we're talking about if we were to try to come up over the hood to defend ourselves or to check and see what's going on, and there was a bad guy downrange, and we were actually in this position right here, protected by the wheel, protected by the engine block, but with our body and or head up above this flat surface. Now in this case, we've set the target up so that it represents a man-sized person standing on the opposite side of what normally would be good cover. The engine block, the front wheels, that would normally protect you from especially pistol fire coming from this side of the vehicle. But if you were to stand up and maybe try to return fire up over the hood or rest on the hood, here's what could happen if the person shot actually missed you but hit that large flat surface, that large flat sheet metal surface. Let's take a look. Now what we did was take 4 shots, and on each shot I climbed up the vehicle. On the first shot, Obviously, the bullet dug into the hood, got sucked in, went down into the engine block, not a problem. On the second one, because of the angle of the hood, the bullet dug in, not a problem for our guy over here. On the third shot, that's when we started to see the deflection that we get off of large flat surfaces. And on the fourth shot, which barely skimmed, we had almost no change in deflection at all. So what we ended up with was 2 shots that didn't affect the target, a third shot that skipped high, and as you can see, went in at a really awkward angle. That bullet was probably tumbling and actually heading up because it took this like a ramp and went up this way. And then that fourth shot really barely skipped off the hood and went right into the target. And actually, you can see a little red transfer paint that came off the bullet and went right in there. So be careful about these large flat surfaces, whether it's the hood of the car or the roof of the car or the trunk lid. Anytime you're behind these, you certainly are still in danger in terms of bullets skipping off. And don't forget, that also counts for being inside the vehicle and having rounds shot at the front of the vehicle, going low, skipping off, hitting this windshield glass. And which direction is that bullet travel going to get pulled? We already talked about that. It's going to get pulled down. So it's kind of a self-correcting skip. Comes up off the hood, hits the windshield, and gets pulled back down. Now, is some of the energy absorbed when this happens? Absolutely. Is the bullet as dangerous, as deadly if someone's shooting at you and they skip around off of something? No, it's not. But I still wouldn't volunteer to get hit by it, and you need to be aware of it in terms of your safety, your security, and your training and your thought process when you think about vehicular considerations for your personal defense when it comes to firearms. Check out more videos just like this one at the Personal Defense Network.